much as I quite want, Stephen.
Yeah.
I quite want no one.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not as quick as the last time. We were on 10 minutes ago, folks. Then we realised we weren't on. So we're going to do the intro once again, and we're going to maybe not talk about certain things that I brought up the first time round. But John, we're talking about Ahsoka Tano, to give her a full name, the latest Disney Plus / Lucasfilm Star Wars release on streaming channels.
Just make sure we've got audio.
Yeah, John, it's been a while. It's been a while. That is weird. It's been a while, John. Patan was obviously the last thing we reviewed. It was a film. This is a web series, so it's been a little while. I didn't
even update the graphic bar.
Doesn't matter.
Having a fucking melt tonight, Stephen.
We're on, John. The main thing is that we're seen, we're heard, and that's great. And the thumbnail looks pretty good as well, to be fair.
Well, it's going to get changed afterwards because there's a few imperfections which will wind me up.
John, I know we're going to talk about this, and we'll talk about it in depth in terms of theories. Where do you think it's going in second season, if there is a second season, which I think there is. But
should there be a second season?
In terms of length,
was it any good?
Of episode, in terms of length of season, we'll get into all that. But I'm going to pass it over to you now, so you can take us over.
There's no preparation here, Stephen.
To our review experience. That's the way we roll. Yeah.
It's all very spontaneous. There's no rails in sight. There's nothing pre-planned here. I've got a couple of points I've wrote down in my notes, which I'm going to attempt to touch upon inevitably at some point in this review. Experience, as Stephen calls it, and it certainly will be an experience. I'm absolutely certain of that. Absolutely, not absolutely. It's been one of those kind of days. Stephen, it really was looking forward to this show when it was announced. I remember it vividly. I think it was Star Wars Celebration. It was Kathleen Kennedy. She announced this. She announced a whole host of other ones. The female-led female all-ensemble TV show with the ex-receptionist PA of Harvey Weinstein. A lot of people blew back against that decision. I actually think she came across quite well in her interview. Well, not here to speak about that. Needless to say, I remember this show being announced.
Yeah.
It was just after Ahsoka had appeared in Mandalorian Season 2, I want to say. Mentioned Thrawn by name.
Yeah.
So we knew that he was fresh on her mind. She was potentially hunting him down. And that's where I was at coming into this. And then also we get the build-up. She appeared again in an episode of Book of Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
Really enjoyed Rosario Dawson in this role to this point. And mentally, I was more than ready for what Dave Filoni was about to give us with this TV show and the array of characters. I didn't know, Stephen, we were getting the likes of, I think it's Hera, Sabine, Ezra. I didn't know the likes of Chopper were going to be in there. I didn't know we were getting the sort of the ensemble from Rebels and Clone Wars. If it were more Rebels, isn't it, coming into this show? So that was a nice little surprise. Until also the trailer, we got hints. Yeah. Mentally, I was prepared for this. Really looking forward to this show, and also it dropped, and we watched it. And sadly, we couldn't do watch-alongs to it.
Yeah.
So now we're here reviewing it.
Yeah.
Where were you, Stephen, mentally coming into this? Were you in a similar place to me? I know you've not watched as much of the Clone Wars and Rebels. I've seen bits and bobs. I'm not going to sit here live.
I've seen even less.
And say that I've watched it all. Just for context, before I let you in, Clone Wars. I was watching Clone Wars when it was physical
put
media.
Into perspective, John, I was probably in my late 30s by the time these things dropped, and I think I just wasn't invested as much as I was in obviously the live action stuff. To be fair, I mean, it still had excitement, John. Rosario Dawson, as an actor, fantastic, great casting. I know a lot of people were a bit of a backdraft on her casting by some minority.
She
thankfully
made some comments, didn't she?
Yeah, but I don't care about that, to be honest with you. But I just think it was good casting. A lot of people were pitching for her for a long time. Perfect actor to play the role. And yeah, John, Rebels was more the sort of thing I tuned into every now and again, so I was familiar enough with the characters. But there was a lot of things in this series that went over my head, but not in a way that ruined the narrative or anything like that. It didn't really take me out and make me go, I don't really know what they're talking about here. I thought they handled it well. They weren't holding your hand. Filoni was not holding your hand with this series. It was a case of get up to speed, guys, because we're getting into this thick and heavy. And they did, 8 episodes, John. I was surprised. I thought it might have got the 12-episode treatment similar to Andor.
Yeah.
And I think it probably should have got that. I'm glad it never gets 6 episodes because the pacing of this series was very important in terms of where they were going. You didn't want to make it look like a galaxy was just right next door to each other. So they had to make sure that pacing was right to make it believable that they were far from home. And I thought it was great. I really did.
Well, the pacing's probably where we'll start off, Stephen, because I have got a couple of criticisms of the show. I think in the main the pacing was decent.
Yeah.
Don't know what I'm doing here. Trying to stretch out. But I do think the first couple of episodes were a touch slow. And that's not really a criticism, it's an actual creative choice of Dave Filoni and the actual writers to start it off reasonably slow burn. Because we have to marinate in where Ahsoka is at this moment in time. We have to marinate in where, obviously, Sabine is at this moment in time. The loss of Ezra, how it's still impacting on them. This yearning for him that he could potentially still be out there with the little sort of small problem, if you'd like, of Thrawn being in the same location as him. I liked the way we kind of get into the skins of Sabine where she was, how we get into the skin of Ahsoka where she was. Both were having minor, I wouldn't say crises. I think Sabine had more of a crisis than maybe Ahsoka did. She was taking the absolute fucking beat down to these droids and whatnot.
But I think you're.
But it was slow for me the first couple of episodes.
But you're right in what you're saying in terms of getting thrown into. It was almost like you were coming into the middle of a situation already, and Star Wars has always been good at that.
It has.
And the relationships between the likes of Ahsoka and Hera and Sabine in particular, because obviously Ezra doesn't come into it till the last 2-3 episodes. You felt the relationships had a little bit strained, and obviously, you know, they've obviously got a lot of baggage between the three of them. And I just thought they did that really well. It wasn't a case of coming in and they all felt new. You know, they all felt that they're only just getting to know each other. I thought they did the writing in the first 2 episodes was really good in that sense.
Yeah.
And I think I seen the first episode before you did, John, and I says, Filoni's not holding your hand by the way in this.
I was reading articles. People were criticising Filoni and the creative team for not being more welcoming to casual fans who hadn't seen Clone Wars or Rebels, weren't maybe aware of these characters who were introduced alongside Ahsoka. I think everyone, to a degree, in the Star Wars fandom has heard of Ahsoka. They're aware of the character, but maybe some of the lesser characters they're not so aware of. Some of the lore, some of the references. There was criticisms in those first couple of episodes, and Stephen, I says I don't really agree with that, because I've been reading comments from relatively casual fans in media you wouldn't normally go to for this kind of thing, and they're really enjoying and have enjoyed throughout the way they've utilised Ezra as this almost borderline myth figure at this point, because he's so far away they can't get to him. And then when they introduce the character, you get a sense that it was worth the wait, because the actor's so charismatic. The character has something about him. He's almost like a Messiah Jesus figure.
There's a good chemistry between him and Sabine as well. When they first meet, it's not over the top dramatic sort of arms round each other, embracing each other. There is a kind of history between these two characters as well, and I thought it was well handled in that sense in terms of pacing. They didn't rush into it. They didn't introduce Ezra into the second episode or third episode, and bringing Anakin in as well I thought was a good idea. I thought just bringing Hayden Christensen back once again to really establish that character and his relationship with Ahsoka as well, which is obviously well established in the animated content. And I thought casting as well was really good, but I know we'll get into that. But in terms of pacing, John, I thought first 2 episodes I did say they're a bit slow burn, but then I did remind myself that Andor took about 4 episodes before I was starting to go off it a little bit.
Look where that went.
And then obviously they introduced your man, I forget the actor's name. It's the family of them. What they call it again?
Stellan Skarsgård.
Yeah, his character. Luthen. Yeah. And it just, well, here we go. This is it.
And then you seen the sort of web, sort of
but
infrastructure.
Andor, to be fair, Andor was different in the sense that there was no animated series or anything like that before. The only character we knew was Andor.
And probably
Mothma, yeah. But apart from that, this is, I liked what Filoni did. I thought, I don't know if Brave has been a bit melodramatic or not, but
I think he's earned the right, Steve.
He was doing it his way. Yeah, 20 years, John. 20
he's
years
built these characters, he's built these stories, and the sort of linchpin in the middle is Ahsoka, and he's earned the right to tell his story with this character. This is his baby. He's built it from the ground up. he's sort of infiltrated into the Skywalker saga, if you like, with her being the Padawan of obviously Anakin Skywalker. And he's earned the right to tell a story. And I'm so glad he's finally got his moment doing live action with this character.
Is it any different to what George Lucas was doing in 1977?
Not
You
really,
fought
no.
in the Clone Wars?
Yeah.
Oh, what the fuck are you talking about? What's that?
And Stephen, what it does is, and you're absolutely right, and what it does by not holding people's hands and bogging the whole experience down with exposition and trying to explain everything, no time for that.
Yeah, it's funny how C-3PO wasn't around.
Exactly.
So we didn't
Well, he
need
did pop
exposition.
up, didn't he, the bastard? We'll get into that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Cameos. And also the one you've mentioned being the biggest one. But Stephen, I'm glad he didn't bog it down.
Yeah.
Because it's given the opportunity for new fans to come in and maybe casual fans to come in and watch Clone Wars and watch Rebels.
Yeah, I was going to say that, John. Yeah.
And be introduced to the stories that he's already laid down
Yeah.
in this animated sort of format, medium, if you'd like. So you don't need to hold hands, man. You can tell a coherent story, and on a basic level, people will understand it. And then you've got so much more depth and complexity
Some
to find.
people want to go back and re-establish
Well,
some storylines. No, I'm talking about they want live action. I don't know if I want that or not. I think the stories are there already in different format, but they're there. Why would you want to then regurgitate that in live action just to see Hayden Christensen? You know, and I get it'd be nice, but I don't know. People were talking about a trilogy. I don't think that's a good idea, to be honest with you. I don't think there's enough scope there. It's like, let's do a second series of Obi-Wan. Why? We don't need it. We don't need it. You're just stretching something out that doesn't need to be told.
Yeah, exactly. Stephen, maybe another criticism that could be levelled at this show. I'm just getting the criticisms out of the way before I get into the actual positives, which are lengthy. You could argue that it almost felt like a procession for 3, 4, 5 episodes to get into Thrawn and enabling him to come back to this galaxy, which is also the last couple of episodes. You could, if you were being really nitpicky, you could say that it's a procession.
Yeah.
We're going through this sort of linear experience. It's all kind of fallen into the lap of the likes of Balin Skull, Morgan Elsbeth, to get this sort of spherical map finder thing and then going to this galaxy, getting Thrawn and then bringing him back. If you were being really hypercritical, you could say the story was a little bit of a procession. But again, for me, I would blow back against that and say, well, no, it's not, because we're spending time with interesting characters like Hera. You're seeing the sort of power structure in this New Republic.
Sabine's conflict with the
Force, with her internal demons, guilt over maybe Ezra. You're seeing where Ahsoka is in her journey, her relationship with Yang. You've got so much Balin Skull and Shin Hati. You're seeing these relationships being built up in the early stages. It is procession-like,
but there's
a rationale to it.
That's for your casual fans as well. The ones that some are complaining about, it's not for the casual fans the way that's been constructed. Well, in a way it is, because they're doing it in a way that's not, as you said, it's not condescending to sort of regurgitate their sort of backstory and their relationships, but they're doing it in a way where the characters are trying to move forward the best way they can. And I think it was important to do that in those first early episodes. John, funnily enough, Hugh Yang, I didn't realise that was David Tennant to about the 3rd episode.
I didn't. I think
and then
it was later for me.
Once I heard it, I was like, yeah, it's definitely him.
I actually said to you, I'm the same, Stephen. I had the same journey, but later, I actually said to you about 4 or 5 episodes in, what, David Tennant was in this? I've not seen him yet. You're like, he's a droid, John. I'm like, you're fucking right. He is a droid.
I just didn't piece it together at all. I just thought David Tennant.
But he's such a brilliant guy, a brilliant, charismatic actor with such a memorable voice.
And
I don't
it
know
took
how
me maybe 2 episodes to realise Mary Elizabeth Winstead was in this as well, because it does not look like it's the eyes. The eyes are so weird.
She looks weird, period, in this show. It's the green paint. It's like the whole, oh
your
my God, he's green.
are very fascinated by her butt.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, it's all over social media.
Well, Steve, that's another thing I'm going to get into as we go through here. Not butt wars, but the huge amount of female characters in this show. And I seen it when I searched up just to find out how people were structuring their headlines for these kind of videos. I seen one particular, I think it was Nerdrotic, surprise, surprise, I think that's the name of the channel. Fucking female haters.
All right.
Something about Force is female, this is feminist propaganda. This was about a month ago. So we're talking...
That's around 20 years ago.
We're talking about 4 episodes into the show. Absolute fucking bollocks. This is not feminist propaganda. This is not Force is female. It's not anything like that at all. You've got hugely powerful male characters in this show. Ezra Bridger, hugely powerful male character in this show. They're fucking seeking this guy out.
Yeah.
They're going out their way to bring this guy in. When he comes in, he's so charismatic, thanks to Eamon Esfandi. Such a brilliant, interesting character, Ezra. He's a guy. Balin Skull, as you said, Ray Stevenson, the late great, big, powerful, brooding guy. Ahsoka has to create a distraction and run away from this guy. He says you can't win. He's in here. He's a guy. He's utilised well. Yang, he's getting voiced by a guy. Hayden Christensen comes back as Anakin Skywalker. He's a guy. He's not watered down. They're not turning him into a joke. It's not feminist propaganda. That's bollocks. Thrawn's in there.
Yeah.
Grand Admiral Thrawn. He's a guy.
Yeah.
So there's a good balance. You've got a lot of powerful female characters, but you've also got a lot of powerful male characters. This is
John,
not a feminist story.
I
it's
don't
nonsense.
get these people, and I've said this before, and I've said it on our news shows as well, that Star Wars is in such a place now that you can accommodate all walks of life, and there'll be things that don't appeal to you, there'll be things that do appeal to you. Certainly those people you described on, this is not going to appeal to them because they're not going to change the way they think. It's madness. But Andor was predominantly a male cast. Yep. Where was the uproar? Where was the uproar from females? There wasn't, because it's not that important. Storytelling, good storytelling is what
Stephen, that's what I was going to say.
Doesn't matter about the characters and what sex they are, what colour they are, age they are. Doesn't matter. Does not matter.
The big criticisms against Rey in the sequel trilogy was the lack of adversity and the lack of development. That's not something you can level against Hera, Sabine, Ahsoka. They're going through adversity. They're going through shit, and they're leveling. They're emotionally, physically. They're in turmoil. They're going through a journey.
I think this is a good point. I think this is a point, and a good point to start to talk about the casting then.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about the characters as well, and I don't think they've missed a step with the casting at all.
Even Havana Sakno,
I was just looking at her, just cold, dead behind the eyes.
Character with few words, but so brooding
Yeah.
and just a presence throughout. Just brilliantly cast. I'd never heard of this individual before this show. Eamon Esfandi, I spoke about him, Stephen. Again, never heard of him.
No, exactly.
But so charismatic, such a presence. I says it, Ezra, he's almost like a Messiah, Jesus figure in this. He's so at peace and at one with this environment, with these sort of indigenous animals. Aliens, we're not going to call them animals, indigenous creatures. He's just perfectly captured by Eamon Esfandi in this show. The animals. Well, they're like
Flaming animals.
They're like tortoise, aren't they? Alien tortoise. Sentient tortoise. Really interesting little characters. It brought me back to like sort of creature comfort. I want to say like
something out of Labyrinth.
Yeah, just something like that. Labyrinth kind of characters. Really,
but they were so peaceful. You know, they were so
reminiscent of the Ewoks.
Yeah,
where if you rile them enough, they will get involved.
Yeah, they'll fight back.
They'll fight back.
Yeah, but they're peaceful creatures. Yeah.
Deanna Lee, and I can't say her name. Santo, unbelievable as Morgan Elsbeth. This woman's nearly 60. And you would never think it looking at her.
Just in connection with her character, Morgan Elsbeth, and those witches, how did you feel about...
I really enjoyed it.
At the beginning, though, I thought it was a little bit... Oh, are we doing witches in Star Wars? This is a bit
This has been
strange.
done, though, Stephen. It's been done before. The Witches of Dathomir. We've seen this in even Star Wars games. Jedi Fallen Order, I think you go to Dathomir. So... I mean, I'm personally well acquainted with the whole witches thing.
The more they established them in this series, though, John, the more I was growing and warming to them, because I thought, I think these characters are going to play a pivotal part going forward. And I said to you before we came on, are they going to be linked to the resurrection of Palpatine in some fashion? And, we've seen it. We saw it in that last episode with the zombie troopers. They can bring the dead
Stephen?
Back to life. I thought it was creepy.
It was telegraphed. The whole zombie stormtrooper thing was telegraphed. Thrawn says at one moment, we've had a lot of losses. I'm paraphrasing, but he hints heavily that these stormtroopers shouldn't be there. Yeah. And obviously, in the end of the final episode, the finale, when they go back to the actual Star Wars galaxy, you see all the caskets getting lined up. There is an enormous amount of losses.
Yep.
And they're just weird. They've got a weird vibe to them. They're pieced together with bits of gold. So cool from a merchandising standpoint. Those stormtroopers, you can see these sort of hot figures coming out right now, and they'll sell for hundreds of pounds.
Yeah.
You can see the Lego potential in this show.
I've
There's
seen
so
a
much
Lego.
potential. I'm looking forward to Christmas already.
I've actually seen a Lego version of Hera.
I'm looking forward to Christmas. I'm going to be buying these sets, Stephen, for fucking sure. It's a Christmas sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a sort of thing now at Christmas for me that I buy Lego and I get steaming drunk and I build the Lego.
Good combo, yeah.
It's a tradition. That's the word I'm looking for, a tradition. But so many cool moments, Stephen. Some brilliantly casted characters, as you said. The actors are bang on. Even Natasha Leo Bordizzo, she's got the right level of attitude for Sabine, but she's got this sort of emotional centre to her and just brilliantly performed throughout. But Stephen, in terms of the episodes, as we did say, it started slow, it built, but even in those slower early moments, there is sporadic bursts of action. Yeah, Lego ask you. Oh, yeah. You should show the camera. Show that to the camera. That's pretty cool. The Lego blocks himself have buttocks. You need to maybe move it over a little bit towards you. You're on my shot now. Over a little bit more. There we go. There's that's very, very good. Yeah. Even the early moments, she had sporadic bursts of action. I'm thinking of Ahsoka going to claim this sort of artifact that then enables them to travel to the galaxy where Thrawn's resided. Yeah. The action bring them down. The quick thought to hop onto the ship. Hu Yang's late. There's so many little bursts of action. Obviously, I'm trying to think off the top of my head other things that have happened early doors that I've not reacquainted myself with these episodes. And as I did say, this will be
there was some political
spontaneous
stuff going in there as well.
The breakout of Morgan.
Yeah.
Where they go into the ship. We're not Jedi. You're not Jedi. And the way they take them down and they break her out. Very, very cool moments. Yeah. Some stunningly choreographed lightsaber fights throughout, and the stuff with Morgan in the finale as well. Really, really well realised action. Yeah. Stephen, a lot of criticisms towards the sequel trilogy and indeed maybe other lightsaber fights. I mean, maybe Sabine at the start falls into this as well, where they're a little bit clunky. Yeah. And maybe a little bit lacklustre. With Sabine, she's learning to be a Jedi on the fucking job, let's be honest. Yeah. She's not going to be Anakin and Obi-Wan level of slick and Revenge of the Sith, swinging off of ropes and never missing a sort of a parry with the lightsaber. Yeah. But throughout, I thought they get that sort of prequel-y vibe from the sort of fights just bang on. There's the right level of power from Balin, the right level of sort of flashiness from Ahsoka. And that moment in the finale when you've got the trilogy or the trio of Jedi coming on to that room with all the stormtroopers, such an epic moment visually. Yeah. Someone says it was like a video game. It was so fucking cool.
Someone
in this era to see the Jedi being reborn.
In terms of the last episode, John, that you wouldn't expect to say was very underwhelming was Kristen Harloff. It didn't sit well with him at all.
Did it not?
He thought it was very underwhelming.
The finale?
The finale, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I liked it.
I quite liked it. I thought they hit the landing in so many places with the characters, but I think they've left enough open as well to really, and this is the thing I love about these shows.
Thrawn had to win, Stephen. He had to.
Yeah, we talked about that, John. There's no way the people have been waiting for this character.
I've been waiting since I read the Timothy Zahn novels to see him live action anyway.
I kind of felt sorry for the Hera character in a sense that she didn't really have much to do. Yeah, maybe that episode where they were looking for Ahsoka in the sea. That was probably the busiest she was.
That was a great moment.
The rest, she was really sort of just more dialogue, wasn't she? She was talking to the senators, tried to pacify them. But I just felt, I think we'll see more of Hera and Ezra in season 2 and their relationship.
I was just trying to wonder, because I don't know if I've got to the point, but maybe Rebels or whatever, where it explains who Hera's the father is to Hera's child. I don't know if that's ever been explained. Yeah. But yeah, look, I digress, man. Yeah, Stephen, look, some great moments in there. You touched upon it, that moment where Hera does go, and also the little kid, he senses this sort of interaction between Anakin and also Ahsoka. It's such a cool moment. We're getting back in flashbacks into the actual Clone Wars. Yeah. She's young.
And he's so much better than Broom Boy.
Yeah, so much better than Broom Boy. This is a Jedi I can get on board with, Jason. Yeah. It's a name that I'm well aware of from the expanded universe. That was, I think, the original name of one of Han and Leia's kids. I think it was Jason and, oh God, what was the other one?
Jason Solo.
Jaina or something like that. Can't remember. Maybe make that up. But that was a really cool moment visually. It's that sort of, I'm going to butcher it here, but there was a moment, what's it called again? Where they are walking along this sort of Bridge. It was in I can't remember the name of it. It doesn't matter. I need to get back and watch Clone Wars fully.
Yeah.
I need to get back and watch Rebels fully. I've been dabbling with them, and look, this is something we spoke about. It reignites the fire to go and watch more of Dave's stuff.
Did you like the sort of callbacks to the animated stuff with that kind of painting on the mural on the wall?
Yeah.
I thought that was
cool as
fantastic,
hell,
wasn't
yeah.
it? It was like sort of breaking that, the fourth wall.
I just like the characters like Chopper coming in, Stephen.
Yeah.
I'm like, right away, that's him.
Yeah.
And then the sort of knowing
The
when
ship,
Ezra comes
the
in.
ghost as well.
Yeah, there's just
and everyone was losing their minds when they saw that make its cameo in Rise of Skywalker, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
They were like, it's the ghost,
Yeah.
And
It was like a
obviously-
tiny little fucking speck.
Yeah, and it just it showed, the excitement and the potential for these characters.
It's
to be-
world building, Stephen. This
Yeah.
is what we've been asking for the last, I don't know, coming up for a decade since Disney took over. Creating connections between all of the sort of legacy media that came before the sort of takeover, the merger, and stuff that's came after.
Yeah.
Building bonds, creating a universe that's living, it's
It's
breathing, it's
incredible.
thriving.
It's
And now we're
incredible,
getting it with these TV shows. And you touched upon it, Stephen. There's so much potential for where they go. I know we're ending with a film. I think it's your man, blanking on his name, James Mangold. Potentially, or is it Filoni? I don't know.
I think it's Mangold.
Mangold. We know it's ending with that,
Yeah.
but just how long are we going to get to marinate with the likes of Din Djarin, Grogu, Ahsoka, Sabine? Because we are now, in a sense, they're stranded on this planet in this other galaxy
Yeah.
with Shin, with Balin. Where are they going to take this? Are we going to go into another season of Ahsoka? I personally want to see that. I want to see it continue.
2 storylines, 2 galaxies, yeah.
Yeah, I want to see it continuing. I want to see these worlds sort of colliding, all these different TV shows interconnecting, and we know we're getting that. So it's
Sabine and
exciting
Ahsoka
ground.
didn't look too upset about being stuck there. Not sure why, but yeah. I mean, John, just in terms of obviously casting, just to sort of round it off, I thought I was so happy that we got Rosario Dawson coming in to take the lead in this one. I can't think of anyone else that could have done it. People were suggesting the actor that obviously voiced the character in the animated stuff, but sometimes that doesn't really transcend well over to a different medium. That's why Mark Hamill will not play the Joker in live action.
And quite right, yeah.
He's very good with obviously the voicing of it, but physically he just couldn't do it.
No, he's not tall enough, Stephen. He's
Yeah.
not slim enough now, let's be honest.
But you look at it, I mean, you're looking at Rosario Dawson, Mary Elizabeth, David Tennant, Ray Stevenson. There is some big
World between worlds.
there is some big actors, like names in this series, which is unusual.
Yeah.
I think for a Star Wars production.
They usually go sort of unknowns, don't they?
I mean, they
With
did
a couple of
obviously,
guiding hands.
Eamon Esfandi and the likes of, but we knew Ray Stevenson. Ray Stevenson, I'm sure, was in a series called Rome. I'm sure he was.
It may have been, yeah, it rings a
But
bell.
our introduction to him, if we're being honest, was obviously Triple R, and we were not impressed.
Yeah, it was more the
Well,
writing, though. The character
yeah,
was
but we
written to be 2D.
We did mention that.
Oh, he was in Kill the Irishman as well. I remember
Yeah.
that. He was in Volstagg.
Yeah.
I remember The Three Musketeers. Not a great movie, but as a kid, I do
Can't
remember
remember
watching it.
him in these things though. Das Boot,
That's
TV
good,
series.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's a new one though, isn't
Yeah.
it? That's coming out shortly, or it's actually been out. I've seen an advert for that recently. Yeah, Stephen, he wasn't for me.
Ragnarok, yeah.
Ragnarok. He wasn't for me an A-list actor that ringed off your tongue. You know what I mean? I wasn't hugely aware of Ray Stevenson, but that's something I want to get into, Stephen. His performance in this was stunning.
Yeah.
Just such a compelling character, Balin. He's also not a Sith. He's certainly not a Jedi, but he's dabbling and he's honing the dark sort of side of the Force. And he's obviously got this greater plan, and that was a question I actually asked of. So we get the Mortis gods at the end. He's standing on one of them.
Yeah.
And I've actually got an article opened of where that could go. There's potential for a character to come in. I think they say his name is, and I'm going to try and Abeloth come in. This character's got Abolsham. This character's got some greater vision for this galaxy, for this world that may transcend what's happening back in the Star Wars galaxy. And he's such a compelling character, just a towering big presence of a man.
Oh, he is. Yeah.
And just it's not just the physicality though, but although the strikes, you could feel them when he was fighting Ahsoka.
Yeah, the
But it's the
Force,
sort of cerebral side of the character. Such a really interesting character, and to the point where you mentioned it, he was missing for pretty much an entire episode. It may have been the
last
finale,
episode, yeah.
and you felt the miss. You
Yep.
felt his sort of you lacked his presence. He's such a really intriguing character. Even his interactions.
I don't
with
know,
Shin.
John, if he did they finish all his scenes? I don't know.
I think he did. Yeah, no, he did. Yeah,
because I
finished them all.
thought it was a very odd decision to leave him out of the whole episode till the very end. Obviously, there's reasons for it.
There was no need, Stephen, for the character in that moment. Shin has almost become like a fucking marauder. She's leading this planet's version of the Tusken Raiders in a sense. You see her, she raises a lightsaber. Balin's got this greater vision plan. He may call her back to his side. But it was really about Morgan at that point, holding up. We're heroes. There was enough time for Ezra to perform that force leap and get onto the ship. But it was really just about facilitating Grand Admiral Thrawn's return to the galaxy.
John, did it cross your mind that the space whales only travel one direction?
Steve, they go to that planet. Believe it or not, I actually read this. They go to that planet to die.
Yeah, you see the ring, don't you, around the planet? And it's all there.
A lot of people, a lot of people were talking about how do they travel in sort of hyperspace. Well, they use the gases in the planet they come from. Yeah. They actually eat or consume those gases. That gives them the ability, because it's the same gas they use, I think, in the ships to go to hyperspace and also leap to locations. But they go there to die.
Yeah.
But I knew about the space whales through, I don't know, again, I'm fucking blend Rebels with Clone Wars that often, but I'm aware of space whales. I'm aware of people criticising them back then.
Yeah. I mean, they were highlighted, obviously, in The Mandalorian, weren't they, season 3?
Yeah, that was a cool moment, yeah. Yeah, it was, because obviously Grogu sees them.
Yeah.
But I love that, Stephen. That says we're blending the animated with the live action, we're bringing it all together. And Dave Cern that he's produced some of the best Star Wars stories that we've seen. Does
it concern you though, John, that as we establish more storylines in this period, that certain things have to be retconned in the original trilogy? We've already seen it to a very negative degree, obviously, with Palpatine's return in The Rise of Skywalker, which was absolutely crazy thing to do.
But I'm not blaming Filoni for that though.
No.
He may produce a rationale for that,
but things like
save it.
That boy is our last hope. No, there is another. Look, there's a fucking collection of them. No, things like that.
But Stephen, I always viewed the Jedi.
It's a big galaxy that Obi-Wan's not going to know everyone, I suppose.
No, and there's no way the Jedi. I mean, Stephen, there was one sort of Jedi that they, as you say, were aware of. Obviously, Yoda and Obi-Wan. The galaxy was teeming with life. There is force, the people with force abilities who have got a connection to the force. The Jedi would spring back up again. It's cyclical. Obviously, you need the leaders who are going to train the new era of Jedi, and that's what Luke tries to do. Obviously, he fails now, we know that. But it's continually going. It's cyclical. It evolves again and again. They rise, they fall, they rise, they fall. So I'm not too concerned about the likes of Ahsoka. She isn't really a Jedi anyway. I think she's a grey Jedi. I think they refer to her as. Well, she's kind of transcended the light and the dark. That's why she's got the white sabers, I think. Sabine's just becoming a Jedi in this, and I think in Rebels, Ezra went through a journey to become. He had a sort of turbulent time with his sort of force abilities. So these weren't people who were fully blown Jedi at this point. Ray Stevenson's character, Baylan Skulls, obviously fell out of love with a Jedi. He's no longer a Jedi. He's not a Sith. Yeah. These characters are almost, they're riding a sort of ambiguous line in the Force. They're not Jedi.
The character Baylan Skull is too old to have been one of the younglings during the Purge. It doesn't match up timeline-wise, so I don't know what it is. I know a lot of fan theories suggesting that he was a little kid that said, there's too many of them. No. That boy was toast.
Fucking get some paper run then, I tell you that.
Somebody said that paper run was in Beirut.
Yeah. Always Beirut, isn't it? I don't know why.
What's wrong with Beirut?
I need to go to Beirut.
Yeah.
No, Stephen, but I'm not too fussed. I'm not concerned about retconning of the original trilogy, because Dave Filoni is an apostle of George Lucas. He understands Star Wars better than perhaps anybody. At Lucasfilm, he knows the mythology. He knows what it takes to make compelling and stimulating Star Wars stories. So this is why I've been championing this guy to be the president of Lucasfilm. But although that would almost restrict him in his ability to create TV shows and content like this, because he would be overseeing it for other individuals to go in and do. So maybe we're better freeing him up and letting him do it. But I've got no concerns with this guy taking a sort of hands-on approach to sort of crafting Star Wars stories moving forward, because he really
Favreau
does.
for president.
Yeah, exactly. He has his finger on the pulse.
Yeah.
And Favreau, as you says, he could do that role. No problem. So no, I've not got any problems with the retcon, and I think they'll actually get that balance perfect. Stephen, in terms of episodes though, man, because we're all over the fucking place, but it's very spontaneous. It's a conversation. Yeah. Who gives a shit?
That's the way it should be.
That's the way it should be. In terms of episodes, do you have a standout episode in this show?
Yeah, funnily enough, it's the one that Anakin's in. It's the one where he's kind of retraining Ahsoka in a way. There was just so many moments in that, you know, and for anyone who didn't watch the animated stuff with those two in their relationship, kind of got an idea of what it was like between the two of them. And I thought the time sort of lines for young Ahsoka and young Anakin during the Clone Wars was done perfectly, and then going back to sort of more present time, it was sort of like she was in a void, wasn't it? Because she wasn't alive and she wasn't dead at this point. I just thought it was a great episode. It was very dialogue heavy between the two of them, and also it gave Hayden Christensen some spotlight to act as well, not just wield a lightsaber, but actually act. And this boy can act.
He can.
This fella can act, and it's good to see.
So glad to see him back.
I think that might have been episode 4.
Well, funnily enough, I think my favourite episode, and this may be a curveball, maybe not one that most people choose, was probably the one before, where they crash. They're in that sort of dogfight with the Shin character, and they're in the ships, they're being attacked, they have to land in the forest.
Yeah.
Almost looked like it was shot in Japan or something. The trees looked stunning, the pinkish hues of the leaves. It looked like it was on location. Just stunning from a purely visual standpoint. And then obviously the fight between Shin and Sabine, she's not quite a Jedi at this point. She's not even a Jedi just now as the show rounds up, or this season rounds up. But just seeing her trying to wield the Force, Shin recognises this and she kind of tries to take advantage of it. Different perspectives. You've obviously got, I think, Balin taking on Ahsoka at this point. 2 different fights. It's just so tense. It's so well constructed, the episode. And it ends obviously with Sabine having to make a choice, and you can see Balin, he's trying to manipulate her to his cause.
I've seen that in Revenge of the Sith when Palpatine and Yoda were fighting and Obi-Wan and Anakin were fighting.
Yeah, there's something, it's something, Stephen, you're right, it's sort of, I don't know what the word is, I'm trying to think of it. It's not poetic, but it's almost symmetrical, is that? It's something that's popped up again and again.
Yeah. I mean,
in Star Wars, there's symmetry with scenes and things re-happening again.
And they're well
and again
matched.
and
I
again.
think Balin against Ahsoka, obviously the Masters against each other. That was the one I wanted to see.
It's the dialogue as well, though, Stephen. It's not just the fighting. It's like old-fashioned fencing. You've got dialogue, you've got real cerebral discussions happening. Maybe not between Sabine and Shin, but certainly between Balin and Ahsoka.
Shin didn't have too much to say.
And it's him bringing her almost to his side, saying, look, he's manipulating her. If you want to see Ezra again, you have to come. You have to give me this and obviously follow me. Just shows you Ray Stevenson's acting ability. It was a really brilliant scene, and just the music, everything, Stephen. We'll get into technical stuff, but this felt like Star Wars to me, this show.
It did,
I can't understand people saying it's weak and criticising this show. I fully
I think
believe this is one of the best Star Wars
with
shows ever made.
The Star Wars feel, John, is that they've taken these characters from a period from Clone Wars, from Rebels, and they've dropped them into just after the original trilogy storyline, and they fit. They just fit in there because they're a lot older than they were, in the animated stuff. But I just
try to remember when Rebels ends. It's certainly around about that period.
Yeah,
because obviously Ahsoka she has an interaction with Vader, and I mentioned that again. Something brilliant helmet, about the whole helmet thing, where he's only really revealed on 3 occasions, Anakin, when he's turned to the dark side and he's Darth Vader. One of them was when Obi-Wan cuts open the helmet and sees one side. The other is when Ahsoka cuts open the helmet and sees him from the other side. Then Luke, full on, he takes the helmet off. And that's just, again, you speak about symmetry in Star Wars, that's it, just personified, really.
John, I'm just amazed, when I take myself back to the original trilogy as a wee boy, and watching it, Anakin was just someone that spoke of. And it wasn't till 5 minutes at the very end of Return of the Jedi, we really got to see Anakin, not Vader. You know, and since then, just how this character's established, how he's developed, his backstory, and just humanising him more. I know a lot of people were kind of bummed that they were humanising Vader in a sense, but I don't really see it that way. I see them as two different characters, you know, and I just think it's amazing. It's something I don't think, if you told the sort of 7-year-old in me that Anakin's going to be such a big part of this story 40 years from now, he's still going to continue to have an influence on the characters from the past and the present and the future. I wouldn't have believed you. I wouldn't have thought there was enough fuel in that character to do that, because at that point Anakin was just this old man that died.
Yeah,
you know, and that was it. But it's great.
Even at the end, Stephen.
Yeah.
When his Force Ghost appears at the end, I was thinking after it, that could be, if indeed Ahsoka seen him, and I'd like to think she did because she was smiling.
Yeah.
Certainly Sabine get something. She's seen some sort of spectre. I don't know if she's recognised it as also she doesn't know Anakin, I presume. But that may have been the first time that it was confirmed to Ahsoka that Anakin had been redeemed and he'd came to the light side again.
Because it's that period.
She's seen him as Vader.
Yeah.
She also knew him as sort of heroic Anakin Skywalker. And then, obviously, in that time period, Luke has redeemed his father. Yeah. And then she sees him as a Force Ghost.
At the end of Battle of Endor as a Force Ghost. But this is probably the next time we see him.
Yeah.
Because everything else with Anakin
certainly the first time Ahsoka seen him
was visionary, or it was set in the past.
Well, the world between worlds, when she's interacting with him, even then he turns kind of semi-evil at the end. And then she says, well, I can't remember what happened.
I choose to live,
I choose to live. And then he almost smiles and says, fair play. There's hope for you yet, or something. Paraphrasing heavily there. It's been a few weeks since I've seen it.
Yeah.
But that wasn't. I think that was a sort of. It wasn't
visions.
Yeah, it was visions. It wasn't like real life. She was almost. Yeah.
Because he looked at peace in that ending shot. Yeah, definitely.
So I liked the journey with Ahsoka and Anakin, and Stephen, that was something I was going to touch upon as well. Throughout all the action and whatnot, there is real human storytelling at play in this TV show. You've got the relationship with Ahsoka, with Anakin, and obviously the individuals around, like Sabine and whatnot.
Yeah.
But you see her going through her journey and dabbling with her sort of experiences as a young kid, as an adult, and where she is with Anakin, and it's kind of concluded at the end. You also see it with obviously Hera, her relationships, a human story in this New Republic, fighting against bureaucracy, trying to get things done. Yeah. She can see the threat coming. They can't. Mon Mothma is obviously sympathetic, but she's got her hands tied because of red tape and whatnot in this New Republic. You see the same sort of appeasement and the stupidity showing its face again that we've seen before the rise of the Empire.
Yeah.
And it's just repeating itself. They're completely oblivious to Thrawn, the threat of Thrawn.
You know that arena?
The Senate.
The Senate, just the way they were so easily swayed. I'm like, you're fucking idiots.
It's true.
This guy looks evil. He's got an evil voice.
Itself again, but it's the sort of stories that there's some real complex human stories going on underneath the sort of superficial stuff.
When she was getting questioned with Mon Mothma, and the one that was to the sort of left of
annoying.
Mon Mothma with the long dark hair, it was just so negative. And I thought Hera really did hold her own.
Talking about heroes of sort of the Rebel Alliance here. We're talking about heroic figures who've been there and done it, getting spoken down to by these little fuckers who have not seen war, have not done anything. And I just like the way that there's little flashes of that, and maybe more. To be fair, Sabine, where she was at the start, meeting Ezra again, where she is at the end, a much more contented character, even though she's stranded in this planet. She's more contented, more emotionally balanced, stable, if you like, than where she was at the start. There's real journeys explored. Obviously, even Morgan, to an extent, she becomes a fucking witch of Dathomir, really, doesn't she? She's kind of an honorary member, if you'd like. She's got that connection, but she does, because then she gets killed, obviously. But there's journeys throughout. Balin's journey, he's the most mysterious character, and that's the one thing I would say. The one real criticism I've got is we didn't maybe explore that character enough. I understand it's called Ahsoka and we're going on a journey with Ahsoka. There's so much to fucking do in this TV show, but there's so much potential, and sadly we've no longer got Ray Stevenson to explore it. I know they're going to recast the character, but it's going to have to be really special.
Big shoes to fill as well,
because he's such a brilliant actor, and it's just so good in this.
The biggest part for the character, obviously making an impression on this season, was Ray Stevenson. because as you said, the character wasn't developed with a backstory, or it wasn't. There was not much to work on in terms of why is he the way he is. We just can only surmise at this point.
Yeah, the sort of vision he's got, what he's talking about, there's a greater thing at play here. I've got visions of grandeur here. There's something, I can feel it.
The actor's delivery made it acceptable to just go, fair enough, we'll find out.
Stephen, look, you spoke about Thrawn as well. I mean, Thrawn, talk about Thrawn. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ, what a character. I was introduced to this guy in book form. I think it was a story getting back to the early 1990s. Timothy Zahn, I know he's since done new novels that are part of canon. Such a compelling, incredible, cunning villain.
Who created the character, John? Was
Timothy
it
Zahn? Timothy Zahn, yeah, Stephen.
Is he getting royalties for this?
Oh, well, absolutely. It's his character, Stephen.
John, I can remember, you might remember as well, but it was probably mid-90s, so I'm not really sure, when these books were out and people were saying this should be made into film.
It should have.
And Jeremy Irons was going to be playing him. That was, I always remember this. And I thought, that'd be fucking incredible if they got Jeremy Irons to play this character, because I can imagine him playing the character. But Johnny, I thought his entrance was quite underwhelming. But then again, Vader's...
Oh, Stephen, but he made a fucking sort of... It was like theatrics. But the ship coming down
but
onto
Vader's introduction to Star Wars as a whole was very underwhelming as well. It was just a case of coming through a corridor and not really just a bit of music. It was just straight to the point. I felt they did that with Thrawn as well.
He seemed to know it was coming.
Yeah.
The guy also, the Witches of Dathomir would have helped him with that. They were obviously telling him.
They were talking about him throughout the series as well. And as you mentioned previously, John, Ahsoka did mention him, I think maybe in the Book of Boba Fett. I'm not sure if it was that or the Mandalorian.
It was the Mandalorian, yeah, definitely.
And it wasn't like it was going to come as a surprise. It was like, wow, I can't believe this. Wow, where did he come from? This is so out of left field. We knew it was coming. So
also,
I get obviously the way they shot it was to be as dramatical as possible, but not over dramatical in the sense that we know he's coming. We know this is why they're here.
And it was the performance, Stephen. It was just unnerving.
Yeah,
it was unsettling, Lars. He was completely calm throughout. Never at any point did you feel this guy had a bead of sweat coming down his face. He was just ahead of the curve at all times. He knew everything that was happening. He asked Morgan for information on Ahsoka, her master, and that's so in character. Reading him in the book, he studied cultures through their artwork. He studied species and sort of aliens off their art, their sort of culture, their artwork and things like that, and that gave him a full picture of where they were and how they'd operate.
There were some fans nitpicking about obviously Lars Mikkelson's physical appearance, calling that, he's got a dad bod and all that. I mean, the guy's in his 50s, for fuck's sake.
He's not a character that's going to whip out a sword and start chopping people up. He's a cerebral villain. He's an intelligent puppet master villain. He gets other people to do the gimp work for him.
That's it.
And he's always 20 steps ahead, not one or two. This guy is incredible.
But
what a character.
The actor as well, John, his delivery was fantastic, wasn't it? It was so cold and calculated, the way the character is. But
just a little wry smile when he says something, I can't remember what he says, something about your master. I wonder if you'll turn out like him.
Yeah.
I've won I'm paraphrasing. It's been a couple of days, obviously, since we've watched the episode. I've not went back. But the little wry smile when he obviously jumps to hyperspace and he knows he's won and he tells her, I've won. Basically, so long, bitch. Eat my sort of hyperspace dust
and crop
exhaust fumes. Just a brilliant moment for the character. We spoke about it, Stephen, before the finale. I hope and I trust Dave Filoni wouldn't have did it anyway. But you simply could not make this character lose in any way.
No.
Even a small little tiny loss, he couldn't. He has to win the day.
Yeah.
To the point where he has to keep winning the day, and I want this story to continue. I don't want it to be this TV show, maybe another season, then we go into this movie and he loses.
Yeah.
He simply cannot fucking lose for the foreseeable.
Yeah.
They have to continue this story for the next fucking 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
I want 3 films out of this.
He's such a compelling, intelligent character, and we need to get more of him.
Yeah.
He has to. This guy's on
John,
Palpatine level.
I think the fact
maybe not as powerful, but in terms of
I think the fact they casted Lars Mikkelsen in this role suggested that he's going to be around for a while. You could have got anybody to do this if it was going to be a throwaway.
He's only 3 episodes.
Admiral Thrawn is not a throwaway character, and he is here for the long haul. He is here, I would say, for the next 20 years in Star Wars time anyway. Obviously, he's not around for Force Awakens, but that's enough. It's enough to
I mean, you know
give
the
us
jobs
another
to do.
saga, a Thrawn saga, whatever you want to do.
I would love to see them develop the character out. I don't know how they're going to do it. Is it through TV? Is this a strictly TV character? Can we get a movie with him? I don't know. Also, we're getting the culminative movie that's going to wrap up all of this sort of era of TV, Mandalorian, Boba Fett.
I think Thrawn and
Ahsoka.
those witches have got something to do with Palpatine's return. I really do.
No, they could revive him in some way and then he sticks around long
Because-
after. I don't know.
Because Thrawn is hell-bent on resurrecting the Empire. He wants to get back
But
to...
would they want Sheaf back? Because
Well-
this is a guy who would want that power for himself, obviously. I don't know.
Depends on, obviously, what goes down in between. And,
I mean, he may bite the bullet and the witches don't.
yeah,
They may stick around somewhere else
yeah.
and then they bring him back.
But it's all speculation. That's
It
what I
is.
love about Star Wars, though. The speculation's already kicked off.
But just Stephen, perfectly cast again. We touched upon the casting earlier. Just perfect casting. Lars Mikkelsen, unbelievable performance. And just such, I thought he'd done the character justice for me. I don't agree. The visual level, I thought the suit,
Yeah.
the sort of uniform, just the red eyes, menacing, emotionless, always a step ahead. Just a brilliant, unnerving performance. A real presence as well.
Yeah.
Even in the quieter moments when he was
Oh.
sitting contemplating, you felt
Yeah.
This
Last
guy's got
episode,
something.
John, with the witches and obviously Morgan, when they were obviously taking her in, he just stood there. He didn't say a word. The camera went to him a couple of times, but it's just his presence. He didn't have to say anything, just his look.
And it's a lack of sort of care. I know some of these stormtroopers, death troopers, whatever they were probably zombies, but it's just the way it's acceptable losses.
Yeah.
It's almost like a chessboard. He doesn't view these individuals as sort of lives. He just uses them to get his, to meet his ends, if you like, and then that's it.
Exactly,
He
yeah.
moves on swiftly. So all in all, I thought they handled Thrawn brilliantly. He's only in 3 episodes, but man, he packs a fucking punch. I would say that's one criticism I have got, though, is the show, for the show as a whole. That we have got Thrawn in there. He's an incredible villain, one for the ages, and the way they handle this moving forward will be hugely important to the way that I look at this in sort of retrospect. I want this character to be around for multiple shows if possible. I know that's maybe asking for too much, but having him in this TV show is a huge positive. Also, I was fucking buzzing when I found he was going to be in it. But the villains in general, Stephen, I don't know if you agree with me. Before we maybe wrap it up and talk about technical stuff, because it is getting late here, we spoke a lot longer than we thought we would. I think that was a slight weakness of this TV show up until Thrawn comes on the scene.
Yeah.
Balin, I don't view Balin as a villain. It's strange. Morgan's obviously a villain, but she's not really caring about Ahsoka. She's
And
not caring about
Shin's
these
just
characters.
like a sort of servant to
She's a servant to
to
Balin.
Balin, and you're right, John.
She's
I
almost
think
like a training fucking...
the Balin character was interesting enough to not be part of the good guys, but it was conflicted enough to be interesting. But as you said, he wasn't out and out the villain, although he was carrying most of the sort of villainous traits.
I've said there, he was willing, he was capable,
Yeah.
he was capable but unwilling. He's a capable villain. He can be a villain, but he didn't seem willing to be the villain.
Yeah.
He's got his own shit going on. He's got his own journey to do. He'll take out Ahsoka and the other sort of
Well, he
hero
did.
characters if he has to.
Yeah.
But he's doing it reluctantly. He says at one point it's a shame to see the end of a Jedi or something like that. I think he still harbours in the back of his mind a strange sort of appreciation for
Well, he did say
the
says
Jedi.
he agreed with a lot of the things that they stood for. Yeah.
So in my mind, he's not really a villain.
Yeah.
Morgan is a villain, but she's more focused on bringing Thrawn into the fray. So she's not really focusing on Ahsoka. So for the first
She's
maybe,
bit of bullet as well.
yeah,
so
exactly. So
don't
for the
expect to see
first
her
5
around.
episodes, Stephen, you've not really got. I mean, you could say Balin is the villain and Shin's the villain, but you've not really got a compelling big bad sort of villain character. And it's not until Thrawn comes on the scene
For the
with 3
last 3
episodes to go.
episodes, yeah, they'd already
So
did
that's a
5
slight
episodes at that
yeah,
point.
that's a slight sort of criticism of the show. But look, you don't miss, you don't require it. Again, I'll bow back and give the sort of, I'll sit in the fence and give the opposing view. You don't really need a villain because it's not that kind of story. It's about fleshing out these the likes of Sabine Hub, but where she is in this story and where she's going to go, fleshing out Balin, fleshing out Shin. Shin's almost like the Sabine to Ahsoka. The Shin is like what I can't even speak. I've lost the pot. It's the beer. Shin is Sabine to Balin.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Sabine is Ahsoka's apprentice.
Yep.
Shin is fucking Padawan. Shin's a Balin's apprentice. So there's that symmetry there.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And again, I don't think they're really meeting the means of a sort of fucking villain in this show. So that's one criticism I've got, but not a huge criticism.
No.
In the main, I think the show's pretty fucking excellent. Technically, Stephen, I says it already. I think the soundtrack, the score was very Star Wars. I don't actually know who did the soundtrack in this. I'm going to check it just now.
Yeah.
Through the very convoluted setup that is IMDb, because you have to go all the way down. Kevin Kilner done the music. I thought it felt very Star Wars at times. The little numbers that you can tell it's not
Clone
John
Wars.
Williams.
Yeah, he did the Clone Wars.
Yeah, did the Clone Wars. You can tell it's not John Williams, but it has those little moments here, like that Star Wars.
It has the feel, yeah.
It has the vibe of Star Wars, if you like. I thought he did a fantabulous job.
Yeah.
Sort of cinematography, fucking unbelievable. At points, the way that some of these lightsaber sequences were filmed, very impressive. Some of the shots, and I'd imagine a lot of them was probably CG, the sort of ship shots, but
Yeah.
there was a lot of really impressive technical work going on in this.
Doug
The
Chan,
editing.
was part of the design.
Oh, was
crew
he?
as
Yeah.
well. He was a production design.
Is that your man who was part of the prequels? He was a
prequels,
sort of
artist. Basically took over from Ralph McQuarrie.
yeah, he was the Ralph McQuarrie of the prequels.
Of the day,
fucking great guy, by
All
the way.
with Andrew L. Jones and Todd Chernowski. Yeah, John. Yeah, production wise, I was very impressed with it. It looked like there was a lot of on location stuff going on. Certainly on that planet they spent most time on with those turtle things. I don't know what they're called.
The turtles. That's the way they spoke, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, they were great. They
Yeah,
were,
I was thinking of Spaceballs there.
they were little sort of, I don't know, fucking Ewok Jawas. They had the little
Yeah.
ships, but they were it's sort of combination of the two, if you like.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I thought in terms of what was that thing called again? The Void. I don't know. I keep saying the Void. It's not the Void.
Fucking hell, we've had
the
comments.
volume-
I didn't even realise we had comments.
the
I do
volume, John.
apologise.
The volume.
The volume.
It didn't feel like the volume was
No.
overly used in this one, like it was in Obi-Wan, which I kind of annoyed me with that. But it didn't look as claustrophobic in terms of cinematography, which I
No,
thought
I
was.
think you definitely
I
used
think
on
they've
set.
learnt a lesson from that.
Or on
to not
location.
overuse it. It's good when they're doing cockpit scenes and stuff like that.
Fucking hell.
It does add to the sort of believability. But in terms of cinematography, it was fantastic. I liked the colour palettes as well. Thought it was quite grainy at times. But nothing really stood out like, oh my God, that's terrible CG. I thought the CG in it was pretty good.
It was very high calibre on a technical level, Stephen. And I agree with you. I don't think there was much use of the volume. One moment I think stood out would probably be, a couple of moments when Grand Admiral Thrawn's standing, speaking to maybe Morgan or something. The stormtroopers are walking in that sort of cargo bay behind them. They used bokeh effect to cover up the fact that wasn't there. They were standing on a piece of ground, and that was the volume behind them.
Yeah.
100%. I've not recreated an entire Star Destroyer.
Yeah.
It's not James Cameron and fucking Avatar.
Yeah.
So that was used there, but I think in the main they utilised maybe on location shots and stuff like that. It felt more expansive. I think they've learned. I hope they've learned. This maybe maybe not. I may be talking nonsense. I feel like Obi-Wan was shot long before, or maybe long after. I don't know. I don't know how the timelines are adding up here, but I feel like they shot this after Obi-Wan, or maybe before Obi-Wan. I don't know how the timelines are adding up, but there wasn't enough time for them to learn from the sort of Leia chase sequence and then utilise that in Ahsoka.
Yeah.
It's not what they've learnt. That's terrible. And maybe the chase sequences in the Mandalorian with the fucking mod scooters and whatnot going through that little town, they've not took from that feedback and says we'll utilise more on location shots for Ahsoka. I think it's maybe just a creative choice from Dave Filoni and the people involved in this TV show.
Yeah.
But it certainly worked for me, and you felt less confined, less claustrophobic. It felt more expansive.
Well,
and thank fuck for that.
gonna-
Thanks for the comments, by the way. Didn't realise they were there. I want reaction from Movie Ganapath. Don't know what that is, but we'll have a look.
Yeah.
Hi, Karfik. Panner Shelvam's already retracted the message. Lord knows what that said. It could have been fucking anything. It could have been Acid Man. Lord knows. But thank you for the retracted comment, I suppose.
Are we going to rate this?
We're going to
season as
rate
a
it,
whole,
Stephen,
John?
yeah. Best performance, I don't know. Fuck. Rosario Dawson, Ray Stevenson, and then Rosario Dawson. There you go. And your man Mickelson. So just everybody.
Yeah,
it was an ensemble performance.
It's a hard one because I think everyone sort of played their A game in this series. Don't think anyone underperformed. But Ray Stevenson was fantastic. Just to carry that character, an unknown character to us anyway. Rosario Dawson coming in. She obviously did it a couple of times in the Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian. But just to see her carry this series as well. And just great, just fantastic. Really enjoyed it.
Yep. Rating? Sort of summary then, a rating,
Is it out of what, 10 we're doing?
Out of 10, yes, Steve. I was going to do an animation, but then I realised I don't have After Effects installed.
Probably anything, probably 7.8 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
There's certain things that probably... I mean, it's not really the series' fault that I don't understand a few things because I've not watched animated stuff. But I think there was maybe a couple of times where they probably could have been a little bit more on the nose. Not too much. I don't like that. I don't like being... paint by numbers. We'll break this down for you so you understand it. But there was just a few things that probably was more for sort of the Filoni-esque sort of fans, and I don't mind that. It's not going to ruin my enjoyment of it, but I just felt it could have been maybe 4 episodes longer. I would have liked that, just to sort of deal with all the characters a wee bit more throughout the series. I just felt that it was a little bits that they maybe have not bothered with in terms of backstory, like your Ray Stevenson character. Maybe they were saving it for season 2. I'm not really sure. It's unfortunate, obviously, what's
Cruel
happened.
twist of fate, yeah.
But apart from that, maybe 7.8, 8 out of 10, roughly around about there.
I'm going to go a little bit higher. I'm going to give it an 8.5. I really enjoyed it in the main. It does have some minor criticisms. I think it's one of the best Star Wars shows made. I don't know how this is going to age in terms of comparing to how I rated The Mandalorian and whatnot, but certainly for me it's better than Mandalorian Season 3. And it's on par with some of the best things I've seen with Mandalorian, if not edging it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. It just felt like it had more depth. There was more interesting characters in there. It's not just Grogu eating fucking aliens' eggs and then we're fighting a fucking big alien bull. Oh look, it's EastEnders this week in the Star Wars galaxy, which is what Mandalorian kind of falls into at times. It's like episodic stories.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're terrible. Sometimes you get Jack Black and fat singer. Forget her name.
I don't know. I can't
What's
remember.
her
I know
fucking
you're talking
name?
about, but I can't remember.
Oh, she's a fucking absolute arsewipe anyway. Stuff has come out about her. She's been quite abusive and whatnot and bullying, so fuck her. Lizzo, allegedly. So for me, I rate this higher than some of the Mandalorian stuff. It's not anywhere near Andor for me overall. That still retains the title as the best Star Wars TV show. For me, that's right up there rivaling the original trilogy, and maybe even Rogue One, which I think is right up there rivaling Return of the Jedi in terms of Star Wars movies. Because I think it's fucking outstanding, some of the stuff it's done in that. Some of the best acting, arguably the best acting scene ever in Star Wars is in Rogue One. The moment with obviously Galen Erso and Jyn Erso, she sees her father, the message about the Death Star and the sort of, what do you call it, not the fault in the Death Star, but he leaves that flaw that can be exploited by Luke Skywalker. So for me, it's right up there, 8.5 out of 10. I enjoyed it in the main, technically very good, some interesting characters. Brilliant performance. Sadly, one of the people who have gave the best performance and the show is no longer with us, so I don't know how they're going to handle that challenge moving forward. They're going to have to recast really, really well, and I'm sure there's actors out there that are capable of stepping up who have got the same physicality and similar in terms of looks and age. It's a small group, but I'm seeing a couple of the names and I'm already liking some of them, so I think we can continue that character on. But yeah, I really enjoyed it in the main. I thought it felt like Star Wars, and I'm really glad Dave Filoni got to do something with Ahsoka, with this story, with these characters in a live action setting. And in the main, I think he hit the ball out the park and stuck the landing. And who knows, moving forward into a second season, maybe we'll get to see these characters continuing on. I hope we get a second season. I hope we get more of Thrawn before we go into this final movie. I hope it's not just going to be Mandalorian again, Book of Boba Fett fucking 2, which shouldn't happen. And then right into this film, and that's it. We get 3 episodes of Thrawn and then a film. I want more. But look, I'm done.
I'm done.
Chatting shite. I've downed 500 to a pint of Erdinger. Already semi-dehydrated, and it's going straight in my fucking head. Which is why I'm having issues determining the difference between apprentice and Padawan. and fucking tripping over myself trying to explain why there's symmetry between the relationship between Sabine and Ahsoka, and obviously Bale and Skull and Shin. It's a really simple thing, but I seem to struggle badly. But at least it wasn't Finn and fucking, what was it, Pin and Foe from back in the day, where it just broke my brain for like fucking 2 minutes, and I simply couldn't.
Yeah, at least
I
it
tried
wasn't
to
live
keep
done.
rearranging it
Yeah.
again and again, and I kept repeating the same
Hard
thing
night's
again.
day, yeah.
A hard night's day.
Yeah.
We have those moments. It tends to happen at the back
It
of
does,
12 a.m.
Yeah.
when you've had a drink. Thankfully we're done though. Over an hour. Didn't think that was going to be the case, but kind of all over the place, meandering. There wasn't any real structure, but I think we hit most of the points we wanted to hit, Stephen. So all's
Speak
well
your
ends
mind.
well.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on Ahsoka? What's your thoughts on that season? Is that the only season? Is there going to be other seasons? Do you want to see more seasons? I'm just going to keep saying seasons until it loses meaning and I can't say it anymore. What's your thoughts on our review on the characters? Share your rating. Anything you feel compelled to share can go down below in the comment section. That's the place to put your thoughts. Like the video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to get notifications straight to your eyeballs. I always say eyeballs, I don't know why. It's just ingrained there, I can't get out of it. Do the same thing over on Twitch, follow button, notifications button over there. I don't think this is going on Spotify podcast, but certainly you can follow and like the episodes over on Spotify as well. We're over there, audio only. All that's left to be said though is until the next time, me and Stephen are done. Thank you for watching. Until the next time, bye.